The first rule of cage fighting: there are no rules. Well, there are one or two, to be fair, but not that many. You may not have heard of it, but cage fighting's promoters claim it's the fastest growing sport in the world. It's a lethal sounding cocktail of boxing, wrestling and martial arts, and perhaps surprisingly, it's entirely legal. But there's mounting pressure to stop the next big fight in Scotland from going ahead. Our reporter Steve Smith took a cage-side seat.
We close the door and it's a 100% real full contact fight, and that's what people want.
It may be an uncomfortable fact for the human race to confront, but we do enjoy the spectacle of two grown men fighting.
What it does is glorify violence. You've got a set of people that are literally baying for blood.
The Greater Grace Ministries on the Aylesbury Estate, South London. This Sunday, the homilies delivered by Jason Barrett.
Praise God. And I am here standing as a living witness that we can never pray too much, regardless of what is going on in your life.
He says religion saved him from a life of crime. The Lord truly does work in mysterious ways, because when the Reverend Barrett's not thumping the Bible here, he's knocking 7 bells out of his opponents on the canvas.
I don't think he's in any trouble.
Working out under the eaves of a sports hall in southeast London, Jason Badass Barrett, also known as the Punching Preacher, isn't a boxer or wrestler or any other of your old-fashioned pugilists. He's a cage fighter. So what's a nice boy like you doing in a sport like this then, Jason?
A lot of people ask the question. Do you know, in all honesty, I found that this sport has given me a lot of direction in my everyday life. I'm a sort of 3rd or 4th generation Christian from my parents and stuff. And when people look at cage fighting, which is what I do professionally, a lot of people only see the violence. They don't see the discipline. They don't see the guys doing this. They don't see, you know, the positive mental attitude.
Well, you can forgive them, can't you? I mean, the idea is you mash somebody up and you win and get the money. It doesn't sound desperately Christian on the face of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I can definitely see to the untrained eye that would be the case.
Cage fighting does exactly what it says on the tin, or cage. 2 blokes are locked in combat and pretty much anything goes, though there are a few scruples about things like gouging. Indeed, it might look as though they're beating the you-know-what out of each other. In fact, they're practicing mixed martial arts, kickboxing, taekwondo, judo, you name it, as well as wrestling and boxing, under the supervision of a ref.
Why'd you have the cage then? What's that about?
Protection. Oh, I mean, I'll let you finish off.
Yeah, well,
full
protection. It's half gimmick, half protection for the fighters. If you do this, some promotions will have mixed martial arts inside a ring, but we've seen combatants fall out of a ring, through the ropes, over the ropes, because you can use throws, you can lift your guys up and slam them. It's just safer inside what we prefer to call a fenced octagon, actually, rather than a cage.
I want your head underneath his armpit, pushing to the ceiling.
Cage fighting is entirely legal in the UK, which may come as a surprise to some, and its promoters make the extravagant claim that it's the fastest growing sport in the world. But as it emerges from the underground, does its appeal reside in the skill and courage of the fighters, or in something less edifying?
I haven't got an objection to 2 grown adults deciding to go in a ring and commit acts of violence against each other. If that's what they want to do, that's their choice. My concern is what we're doing by glorifying such violence. And clearly, if people want to do that, that's their choice. But my concern overall on the audience and the effect it has on saying this is okay in society today. And to my way of thinking, it's no different to the sort of gladiatorial contests that used to exist in ancient times.
However much skill your guys may have, and I don't doubt it, the people who are paying their money are actually going to see a bloodbath, and that's what they're really interested in.
I'm going to stop you there.
Is that an unfair question? I don't think it is.
No, it's a proper unfair question. Because it ain't a bloodbath. Obviously, I don't want to get upset with myself.
People get hurt.
I'm starting to get that way. Whereas you have never been to a cage fight for you to say that. That's the first thing. Because if you had, you wouldn't stand in front of me and tell me it's a bloodbath.
No, but let's be honest. I mean, people are going there, are they not? Because there's a certain amount of damage from one fighter to the other.
No,
Have we got it all wrong?
We got the statistics to prove, first of all, that mixed martial arts is far, far safer than boxing. There's no recorded deaths, there's no recorded long-term injuries. There are some short-term injuries.
So we did. We went to see some cage fighting for ourselves. Welcome to Cage Rage at Wembley Arena. We took along Ellis Cashmore, Professor of Culture, Media and Sport at Staffordshire University.
You can't seriously tell me that's sport, can you? A man's on the deck. And
Absolutely. It's a primal sport. Sport was never meant to entertain. It was meant to excite. These people are excited by it.
But is it a kind of worthy excitement, or is it something we should be a bit ashamed of?
Steve, what is a worthy excitement? You're bringing your own judgments into this. Sport is
I'm asking you about yours.
Sport is what excites people. These guys are not held with a gun to their heads and say, get in that cage and fight. They go in there, they're trained, they're disciplined, and there is skill on display there. Perhaps we, as outsiders, haven't understood the intricacies of that skill, but it's a skillful endeavour nevertheless.
To be honest, there hasn't really been that much violence.
Not enough. Not enough violence?
No, not enough blood. They're kind of just rolling around the floor.
Yeah. It's the new boxing, you know. It's aspects of all sports all put into one, and that's a very exciting thing to watch.
They're going to have over 60s. So we're all training at the moment.
Are you going to go in for it?
Oh, yes, yes. Several other actors are doing it as well.
Simon Callow,
very funny you should say that. Very interesting. Ian McKellen wants to fight me.
No.
Oh, yes. So he's training very hard, and he's doing Leo at the moment.
My money's on you.
Well, he's training very hard at the moment. And one or two others are also up for it. Michael Gambon is just going in for... He's a bit lazy.
He could be useful. He could be sneaky.
He's useful, he's smoking too much.
Your technique's not top secret, is it?
In his dressing room, James Colossus Thompson is going through last-minute preparations before his bout near the top of the bill. Most cage fighters have day jobs, as farmers say, or bouncers, but Thompson does this full-time. Tonight's an opportunity for him to stake his claim as a rising star of the sport.
How do you feel at the moment? Are you a raging bull?
No, I'm not. I used to be when I first started, but that takes a lot of energy and a lot of mentally drains you. So I'm just quite calm, and I'm just obviously using my nerves just to go out and use me as almost fuel.
You ready? Let's fight!
It's a no-lose situation for Neil Grove, isn't it? It absolutely is.
The Colossus is the hot favourite.
At the bomb standing. Oh! Unbelievable!
But unhappily for him, it's a KO tonight. He's the man who put the loss into Colossus. But at least a doctor's on hand to look him over.
I haven't come across any serious brain injuries. But then, one could argue that I haven't been involved long enough. I deal with the acute episodes, the loss of consciousness or so on with concussion, fractures, cuts, dislocations, all this sort of thing. But, who's to say, if I saw the same fighters 20 years on, what condition they'd be in. I cannot stop it, yeah? And it comes down to the same decision. Do you, on an ethical or moral grounds, refuse to participate in any of these events and risk serious injuries occurring without adequate treatment facilities, or do you actually say, okay, well, let's see what we can do to make sure that nothing serious does happen?